Everyone expects their favorite athletes to be in tip-top shape all the time. When you see them glide across the court effortlessly, they look like they have wheels for legs. When you see them dunk the basket after bullying their way to the rim, it's easy to forget that these dudes are still human. But the truth is, most of them have come a long way from the bottom. Trust me, don't let anyone tell you their mama gave birth to them ripped. Some of these guys, your favorite athletes, started either fat as a donut or leaner than Dave Chappelle during his SNL days. And then there are some who have done things to their body that would shock even the most liberal, left-winged, NBA-loving activist. Here are the craziest body transformations in NBA history. Before we get into all that, if you want to win a PS5 with NBA 2K22 and Madden NFL 22 included, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. Marc Gasol has always had this old man YMCA vibe ever since he was in high school. Sure, he kinda looked like Kevin Love, and body-wise kinda moved like him too. In their high school days, they looked a lot alike too. Marc, who's a Spaniard, was transferred from Barcelona to Memphis after his older brother Pau was drafted by the Grizzlies in the 2001 NBA draft. Marc couldn't speak English well, and he was struggling to fit in until he found the love of his life, junk food. Yeah, where the American society failed to socialize a Spanish immigrant, our food stepped in and welcomed the young man into its sweet, loving arms. And that's when things began to implode for Marc. He found fast food cheap, delicious, and easily accessible. When you're 6'11" and find that much access to an unlimited supply of unhealthy food, it does things to you. It did things to Marc Gasol, namely, the man got fat. Yes, Marc was so fat that they called him Big Burrito. And it's not that hard to see why. Gasol looked anything but athletic. Yeah, he had the height, and sure, he had the skill, but he was also overweight. And when you're overweight, it causes you to slack and makes you undesirable. For Gasol, he couldn't get a college offer, and so he had to return to Europe. He wouldn't start his NBA career until he was 23, where he was handed as a package deal in his brother's infamous trade to the Lakers. When Gasol landed in the NBA, the reality of the situation held him by the throat. He had to get fit or he would be thrown to the curb. So he cut out all the sugar, junk food, red meat, and cut his weight down till he was 240 pounds and moving. This turned out to be the best decision for him because he quickly became lethal on both ends of the floor. He went on to win the Defensive Man of the Year award in 2013. He won the NBA championship with the Raptors and has a resume so decorated that it would be an outright crime if he doesn't become a Hall of Famer somewhere down the line. You gotta love Kevin Love. This man was a threat even before he got into shape. When he first got into the NBA, Kevin was unathletic. He weighed over 260 pounds and his game centered around his ability to rebound. He was constantly among the best rebounders in the game with a career average of more than 11 rebounds per game in the 2010-2011 season. But wait a minute. Something doesn't add up, right? How does an unathletic 6'10" rookie lead the NBA in rebounding? Well, the reason is quite simple, and it had nothing to do with his jumping ability. Kevin is an intelligent player, and he has a solid sense for positioning. In his move for rebounds, Love didn't even need to get past the defender. All he had to do was get a step in front and then use all of his body to create a separation for the shot. By getting a step in front, he would use his beefy backside to create space for a shot. However, when Love came to Cleveland, the NBA was already changing to a three-point shooting league, all thanks to you-know-who. Kevin no longer needed his beefy backside anymore. Now he had to work the court, shoot from deep, and be mobile on defense. To make this possible, he knew that he needed to change his diet completely. He knew he had to chisel his body, and so Kevin did just that. He went from a fat frat guy to a GQ model. I mean, it's not like he suddenly became athletic or anything, but his new body helped him make the biggest defensive stop of his career and carry Cleveland to their first championship in 52 years. Adams has completely transformed himself, his brand, his look, and his identity over the years. When he came into the NBA, he was a clean-shaven guy with a clean haircut that would impress anyone's mama. However, fast forward to his third year in the league, and it was clear that the man wasn't interested in impressing anyone's mama. His hair was growing wild. Then he started adding a few extra pounds of muscle. The 7-foot guy soon became the 7-foot monstrosity, complete with a beard, muscular structure, and a sleeve tattoo that would convince anyone in Hollywood he could play Aquaman's cousin. Steve Adams has become this intimidating figure in the NBA that would bully his way to a rebound, knock you down, then pull you up, tell you sorry, and continue the game like nothing happened. Yeah, don't judge the looks. Adams is one of the nicest guys in the league. Before Giannis won a championship with the Bucks, before he fulfilled his promise to Kobe Bryant and won 2 MVP awards back-to-back, before he even came to the United States, Giannis was an underfed bootlegger on the streets of Athens, Greece. He had to do his part to put food on the table, supporting his parents. At the age of 18, the kid was 6'10" and weighed just 190 pounds. He was extremely skinny. Now, with almost 8 years in the league, Giannis is now one of the most athletic guys in the NBA. He put on 50 pounds of muscle and grew an inch taller. He might be one of the biggest, but he is also one of the most hardworking, and he could very soon be one of the greatest if he continues at this pace. When Anderson first got into the NBA, he looked just like any normal white guy that's good at basketball. He was level-headed and wasn't necessarily the guy you would just spot from the crowd. However, things started getting different when Chris "Birdman" Anderson decided to turn his body into a canvas. He became the tattoo guy and covered himself in tattoos so colorful that they touched every spectrum of the rainbow. From his time with the Nuggets and the Heat, the Birdman became a walking coloring book and one of the most recognizable players in the NBA. If you don't know anything about Joel Embiid, then you surely know this about him. The man loves food. In 2018, he was seen eating a burger 90 minutes before a game, and it caused quite a scandal at the time. People were bothered that an athlete like him was eating junk food. But if Embiid eats that much, it's because he needs to eat that much. Joel Embiid is a tall, muscular guy that burns more than a shitload of calories per game, and the food that he eats, healthy or unhealthy, helps him shed that weight. Even with the junk food he eats, how many people can say they look as fit as he does? Still, if you were to go back in the past to when he was 16, you'd be shocked to see how far the man has come. Yes, Embiid was a lanky kid. He might have had the energy of a hungry player desperate to succeed, but he also had the look of a hungry kid desperate for a meal. His bulky self is a testament to the fact that with enough determination, you can add extra pounds. Because, if you don't know this, it's not easy to get bigger. Thankfully, Philly had enough fast food restaurants to fill up the gaps in his 7-foot frame, and he's not been too far from the gym himself. Now he's one of the most explosive players in the NBA. What is a list of body transformations without Shaq? Shaq might not have been the tallest player to ever play in the league. He might not have been the most athletic player either, and he's definitely not the heaviest player to ever hit the basket. But nobody combined those three qualities like Shaq did. I mean, they called him the Big Diesel. At 7'1" and with a weight of more than 350 pounds, Shaq was both the immovable object and the unstoppable force. However, in his rookie years in the NBA, this wasn't the case. He started as a lean center who could run the floor. He weighed 290 pounds at the time before building up to 340 pounds, then skyrocketing to an unbelievable 400 pounds. That kind of body weight takes a toll on anyone. I don't care how big you are, and it took its toll on Shaq. While players in the NBA suffered under his weight, his knees and feet also suffered. His weight reduced his dominance at a time when he could have reached unfathomable levels in the NBA, but that doesn't mean he isn't one of the best to ever play the game. Before the beard, the muscle, and sheer athleticism, James Harden was a chubby kid suffering from asthma. He didn't have stamina and was terribly unathletic. However, basketball gave him a purpose and drive, and soon he began transforming himself into a formidable player. By the time he was in college, he had become one of the most skilled players. He changed his diet, lifted weights, grew a beard, and became a walking trademark unto himself. Now James Harden is 6'5" with 220 pounds on point guard frame, who has become known as one of the fittest players in the league. One of the most bizarre things to happen to Dennis Rodman, either by his own hands or by sheer coincidence, one of the most bizarre has to be when Rodman went from 5'9" to 6'7" in no time. He got into the NBA at the age of 25 when his hair was black and there were no piercings or tattoos on his skin. He would quickly become an undeniable force in defense and one of the greatest enforcers of rebounds that the league had ever seen. His time with the Bad Boy Pistons was a time when he was relatively normal and good. However, when he was over with them, Rodman became experimental with his looks. Tattoos, piercings, colorful patterned hairstyles, unconventional fashion choices, and a rock star lifestyle. This man would rebound on the court, then marry himself off the court. He would wrestle before playoff games before spooking point guards in the paint. Rodman lived life like no one else could before or after him. The game is only kind to athletes who are kind to themselves, and many rookies come to recognize this as they advance in the league. While they do what they do, we fans will always be here to watch them become the best possible versions of themselves or completely destroy what they've spent so many years building. All we can do is watch. Woo!